I have referred many people to IbogaQuest and to partake in Iboga and Ibogaine. Some actually came for psycho-spiritual reasons, and some came due to abuse issues and in childhood trauma, and due to that, for some, they succumb to addictions. So I've of course seen different things happening with different people, but I wanted to give an example of 2 or 3 of my students. One of them is that I had actually worked with a beautiful young woman that had gone through tremendous amounts of verbal and physical abuse by her father from a very young age, and she had worked with me for many, many months, and I saw that even with meditation and with over and over and over reminding her of her nature, she was very much interested in knowing the fundamental original nature of self. The reminding, again, the same thing that I talked about earlier, the conditioning was very strong in the body, and the emotional aspect of her, the sadness, the anger, all of those things were very present, and they would trigger out of nowhere. As soon as we would talk about her childhood, I would take her back into her childhood, and we would see through them. So I felt that Iboga would be a very incredible gift for her to partake in, because Iboga has this, they say that Iboga has this amazing quality of addiction interruption, but I feel that we are not only addicted to substances, but we're addicted to emotions, we're addicted to thoughts, we're addicted to foods. I mean, that's a substance, I guess. So there was something I noticed in this beautiful woman that was actually comfortable and addicted to these emotions. Even though she wanted so badly to not feel this way, I did some very deep work with her to prepare her for Iboga, because the whole aspect of allowing all these emotions to be there and to be seen and loved and embraced. So when we came here, she all up until the Iboga ceremony, whenever she would go into her addictive patterns of repeating, "This happened to me," and all of those things, I would remind her, and we would just sit with each other. And then she went into the ceremony, and she had nearly possibly 30 hours, and what I observed that because she was aware prior to that, even though she wasn't addicted to substances, she was addicted to a certain way. And so there was, although we do not engage with people when they're in a Iboga ceremony, we give them absolute, complete space to do their own work. She had asked me to come in when she gets stuck in her mind and when she gets stuck in her emotions. And so when she did, I had gone in there just maybe 3 times in the whole entire 30 hours. And this quickening and the seeing of that attachment, even though she wanted to be free, the attachment to how she felt, and not just seeing that that was actually true, rather than the freedom and being attached to the sadness and attached to the story. She was able to see it so quickly that what I so desired for her and she desired for herself was that immense love for self began to happen. immense love for self. And first it was the self as in the person, the personality, the idea of herself, and how amazing and loving and beautiful she is, which she was never able to turn it around because she had a really deep scars from childhood that said, you're not good enough, you're not good enough, you're not loved enough, you're not lovable, you know, all those defeatist thoughts and dialogue that she had with herself. So she was able to see through them and was able to experience this deepest love in herself. And not only that, then she begins to just have the experience of love for all those that she believed have done wrong to her, because then she can see and experience their pain and their constrictions and their obstructions they're unable to see. And so when she came out of this ceremony, until this day we've kept in touch, she's my student, gave her a clean bill of health, by the way. I was like, I don't really need to work with you, you go into the world now and experience self. It was so clean and so clear for her and so expansive that even when things arose, which we've talked several times, she's able to see it and she's not interested in getting lured by that anymore. It's no longer something that she has an interest in holding on or attaching to, because now she recognizes what it is to live from the place of awareness and from a place of love for self and love for life and compassion and clarity. So that's one example. So the second example that I wanted to give also was someone that came with me and had rather indecisive, split mind because of this lack stories and what he has been telling himself. And so again, sometimes I really feel that it all depends on where your consciousness is. I mean, everyone will get exactly what they need in Iboga. And sometimes the mind or thought will come in and say, oh, I didn't get what I needed, or I didn't get what I wanted. And it could be completely unexpected. But I very much trust that that's exactly what life is. You know, you never know what can happen. And who are you in the midst of all of that, as your own center, as the center of your true nature, as the truth of your being. So, so he also had made up a lot of stories regarding his addictions, which were all tied into, oh, if I smoked a little bit of marijuana, that's wrong. That means that's wrong. If I had a drink or two more than I'm supposed to, then that's wrong. And also very much stuck in a lot of identity, spiritual identity, of when you're spiritual, you don't do this or you don't do that, or you know, and all of those things are wrong. And then one of the beautiful things about his seeing that I noticed was that he was able to really clearly see the workings of his own mind very clearly, as to how he does what he does and how it is completely insubstantial. That absolutely insubstantial, not real, it feels real, yet it's not really true. And so again, the quality of the direct experience and going into it. And also recognizing, which is where, you know, sometimes when you have therapists or teachers, it's very important to have that after the Iboga experiences, who can just remind them that the work begins now. Now that you've seen it, that the work begins now. That now you go into life, and life will present you with situations, And I just recently had this amazing talk with him, actually, where he said, yes, it's all in my... I'm wrong. So there was a lot of ideas of shame and guilt that he was carrying that fell away. I feel that that's huge for anyone, specifically with people with trauma and addictions. They suffer even though they are doing these substances to feel okay and feel good and feel loved and escape. They suffer even more because they're doing it, and their guilt and their shame around that. So I found that was so freeing for this wonderful being, where he's going on to making commitments within himself for service and having compassion and deeper connection with his family and his loved ones, and allowing all things to be as they are, which is huge. And that does not mean, it just does not mean that the things don't arise after Iboga, and it's not an end-all, be-all. But the seeing and the clarity that comes from it about how we mistake our thoughts as real and as true, specifically self-debilitating thoughts or stressful thoughts. They're really, when they are not believed and allowed to just be experienced like dust in the wind, shall I say, that then there is this presence that you are, which can very much get flamed on Iboga. So I very much noticed that in him after this experience.